The alarms screamed through the medical station above Viridian Prime. Marcus Chen stood in the main treatment bay, watching the chaos unfold around him. He had been assigned to this facility for 6 months now, the only human doctor among dozens of alien medical staff. The work was challenging, but rewarding. Today, though, something felt different. A cargo ship had crashed on the planet below. The station's scanners detected multiple life signs in the wreckage. Rescue teams were already bringing the survivors up. Marcus checked his equipment one more time. His medical kit contained human tools alongside the standard alien devices. He preferred his own instruments. They were simpler, more reliable. The first transport arrived. The doors hissed open and medical staff rushed forward. Marcus saw 3 patients on floating gurneys. 2 were Pelthians, their gray skin covered in burns. The third was something he had never treated before. The creature had blue-green scales and multiple limbs. Its breathing sounded wrong, wet, and labored. "Critical patient incoming," one of the rescue workers shouted. "Crin male, severe internal trauma." Marcus moved toward the third patient, but stopped when he saw Vekthar approaching. The Throsian medic was tall and thin, with 4 arms and smooth purple skin. He was the senior physician on duty today. Vekthar carried a medical scanner and moved with practiced efficiency. The Throsian ran his scanner over the Crin patient. Marcus watched the readings from where he stood. The results were bad: multiple organ failures, respiratory collapse, internal bleeding. This patient needed immediate surgery or he would die within the hour. Vekthar looked at the scanner for a long moment. Then he stepped back from the gurney. "This patient cannot be treated," Vekthar announced. Marcus blinked. "What do you mean? He's dying." "I am aware of his condition," Vekthar said. His voice was calm, matter of fact. "However, treatment is not possible under current circumstances." Other medical staff had stopped to watch. Marcus saw a Pelthian nurse named Tormek exchange glances with a Xanthian technician. No one moved to help the dying Crin. "I don't understand," Marcus said. "We have the equipment. We can stabilize him and start treatment right now." Vekthar turned to face Marcus. His large black eyes showed no emotion. "Dr. Chen, you are not familiar with the political situation. The Crin Collective and the Throsian Union are currently in a territorial dispute. Under Throsian medical law, I cannot provide treatment to combatants from opposing factions." Marcus stared at him. "You're saying you won't treat him because your governments don't get along?" "It is not a matter of personal choice," Vekthar explained. "The Galactic Medical Charter allows for species-specific protocols. This is Throsian protocol. It has been law for 300 years. The Crin patient made a sound, somewhere between a gasp and a groan. His scales were turning from blue-green to a sickly gray color. Marcus could see his chest moving rapidly, struggling for air that his damaged lungs could not process. "There must be someone else who can treat him," Marcus said. He looked around the bay. "What about the Pelthian staff, or the Xanthians?" Tormek, the Pelthian nurse, shook his head slowly. "The Galactic Medical Charter defers to the senior physician in emergency situations. Vekthar has made his determination. We must respect it." "Respect it?" Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. "A person is dying right in front of us." "A Crin warrior," Vekthar corrected. "His uniform indicates military service. The law is clear." Marcus looked at the patient again. The Crin's eyes were open now, large and golden. They moved back and forth, taking in the alien faces around him. Marcus wondered if the warrior understood what was being said. Did he know that he was being left to die because of politics? The other medical staff began to move away. They returned to treating the Pelthian crash victims. Only Marcus remained near the Crin's gurney. He felt frozen, unable to process what was happening. In all his years of medical training on Earth, he had never encountered a situation like this. On Earth, doctors treated everyone. It did not matter if you were friend or enemy, rich or poor, human or animal. If something was hurt and you could help, you helped. That was the foundation of human medicine. Marcus had taken an oath. First, do no harm. That oath did not include exceptions for political convenience. The Kryn warrior's breathing grew worse. His chest rose and fell in rapid, shallow movements. His scales lost more color with each passing second. Marcus estimated he had maybe 30 minutes left, probably less. Marcus made a decision. He walked to the gurney and placed his medical kit on the floor beside it. The Kryn's eyes tracked his movement. Marcus could see fear in those golden eyes, but also something else. Resignation. The warrior knew he was dying. He had accepted it. Dr. Chen, Vekthar's voice held a warning. I advise against any unauthorized intervention. Marcus ignored him. He knelt beside the gurney, bringing himself level with the Kryn's face. The warrior's breathing was so labored now that his whole body shook with the effort. Marcus reached out slowly and placed his hand on the alien's scaled shoulder. The texture was rough but warm. He could feel the rapid heartbeat through the scales. Relax, friend, Marcus said softly. His voice was steady and calm, the same tone he had used with countless scared patients back on Earth. I've got you. The Kryn's golden eyes focused on Marcus. For just a moment, the fear in them lessened. Marcus felt the warrior's body relax slightly under his hand. Dr. Chen, you are violating station protocols, Vekthar said. Other medical staff had stopped their work to watch. The entire treatment bay had gone quiet except for the sound of the Kryn's struggling breaths. Marcus did not look up. He kept his eyes on his patient, his hand steady on the alien's shoulder. Then I guess I'm violating protocols, he said simply. He opened his medical kit and pulled out a scanner. It was an older human model, not as a Marcus's scanner showed him information, but not enough. The Kryn warrior had 3 separate respiratory chambers in his chest cavity. All 3 were failing. There was massive internal bleeding near what Marcus guessed was the primary organ cluster, and something else, something that looked like crystalline structures, was fragmenting inside the body. His name is Zelkor, a voice said behind Marcus. Marcus looked up. Tormek, the Pelthian nurse, stood a few feet away. He held a data tablet in his gray hands. How do you know? Marcus asked. I accessed the rescue team's initial scan, Tormek said. He glanced nervously at Vekthar, then back to Marcus. I thought you might need information. Thank you, Marcus said. He turned back to Zelkor. Okay, Zelkor. Let's see what we can do. The Kryn's breathing was getting worse. His chest moved up and down rapidly, but very little air was moving. Marcus could see it in the scan. The respiratory chambers were collapsing one by one. He needed to stabilize at least one of them, or Zelkor would suffocate before Marcus could address the other injuries. Dr. Chen, this is highly irregular, Vekthar said. The Throsian had not left the treatment bay. He stood watching, his 4 arms crossed. You are not authorized to treat this patient. The consequences could be severe. Marcus did not look away from Zelkor. What consequences? A diplomatic incident? A formal complaint? He checked his scanner readings again. Because from where I'm standing, the only consequence I see is whether this person lives or dies. You do not understand the complexity of the situation, Vekthar insisted. You're right, Marcus said. I don't understand how politics matters more than a life. And honestly, I don't want to understand that. He studied the respiratory chambers on his scanner. They were unlike anything in human anatomy, but the basic principle was clear. They needed to expand and contract to move oxygen through the body. Right now, they were barely moving at all. Tormek, Marcus called out. Do Kryn have pressure points, places where external stimulation can trigger respiratory response? The Pelthian nurse hesitated. then stepped closer. He looked at the scanner display. Yes, here, along the lateral ridges. He pointed to areas on Zelkor's sides. But I do not know the proper technique. That's okay, Marcus said. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together. Marcus placed his hands on the ridges Tormek had indicated. He applied gentle pressure, then released. Nothing happened. He tried again with more force. Still nothing. He adjusted the location slightly and pressed in a rhythmic pattern. On the third attempt, Zelkor's chest expanded slightly more than before. There, Marcus said. That's something. He kept up the pressure pattern while thinking about the other problems. The internal bleeding was critical. The fragmenting crystalline structures were strange. His scanner could not identify what they were or what they did, but they seemed to be spreading through Zelkor's body like shrapnel. I need help, Marcus said to the room. I can keep his breathing going for a while, but I need to stop the internal bleeding and deal with whatever those crystal things are. No one moved. The other medical staff watched but did not approach. Marcus understood their hesitation. They had rules, procedures, chains of command. Breaking those meant risk. Humans took risks. Most other species, it seemed, did not. Please, Marcus said, I'm not asking you to go against your superior. I'm asking for information. That's all. Tell me about Kryn physiology. Tell me what might work. A young Faloran intern took a half-step forward, then stopped. She was small with silver fur and large eyes. The crystalline structures, she said quietly. They are part of Kryn's skeletal support, like your bones but different. When they break, they fragment into smaller pieces. Can they be removed surgically? Marcus asked. I do not know, the intern admitted. Kryn biology is not part of standard medical training. Marcus nodded. That made sense. There were thousands of species in the galaxy. No one could know everything about everyone. But humans had dealt with this problem before in a different way. On Earth, with so many different animals, early human doctors had learned to treat species they had never seen before. They learned to observe, to adapt, to try things. Okay, Marcus said. What do we know about crystals? They have structure. They resonate at specific frequencies. If we could find the right frequency, maybe we could fuse the fragments back together instead of removing them. That is theoretical, Vekthar said. Despite his disapproval, the Throsian sounded intrigued. Harmonic reconstruction is discussed in medical journals, but it has never been successfully applied to living tissue. First time for everything, Marcus said. He looked around the treatment bay. His eyes fell on a tool cart near the wall. Among the alien medical devices, he saw something familiar. A repair tool from the station's maintenance section. It was an ultrasonic welder, used to fuse metal components in ship repairs. That, Marcus pointed. Can someone bring me that welder? A Xanthian technician named Silvra moved to the cart. She was tall and insect-like, with multiple limbs. She picked up the welder and brought it over, her head tilted in curiosity. This is not a medical instrument, she said. Not usually, Marcus agreed, but it generates ultrasonic frequencies. If we can calibrate it correctly, it might work on Zelkor's crystalline structures. You are guessing, Vekthar said flatly. I'm making an educated hypothesis based on available information, Marcus corrected. It's what human doctors do when we don't have all the answers. Zelkor made a sound, a low rumble from deep in his chest. His golden eyes were still open, still watching Marcus. The human wondered how much the Kryn understood. Did he know that Marcus was trying something that had never been done before? Did he know that failure meant death? Probably. But death was already certain if they did nothing. At least this way, there was a chance. Silvra, Marcus said to the Xanthian, your species has enhanced vision, right? You can see at microscopic levels? Yes, Silvra confirmed. It is a natural ability of my people. Can you look at Zelkor's crystalline structures and tell me if they have a natural resonance pattern? Any kind of frequency or vibration? Silvra moved closer to Zelkor. She leaned in, her large compound eyes examining the Kryn's chest. For a long moment she was silent. Then she nodded slowly. Yes, I can see vibrations, very subtle. They occur in regular intervals. Can you estimate the frequency? Marcus asked. Silvra made a clicking sound, her species equivalent of thinking out loud. Approximately 700 pulses per second. No, wait, 740. It is very fast. Marcus looked at the ultrasonic welder. He checked its settings. It could be adjusted to produce frequencies in that range. Tormek, I need you to keep up the respiratory pressure while I work on this. The Pelthian nurse stepped forward without hesitation this time. He placed his hands where Marcus indicated and began the rhythmic pressure pattern. Zelkor's breathing stabilized slightly with the regular assistance. Marcus took the welder from Silvra and began adjusting its settings. He had used similar tools back on Earth for various purposes, though never in surgery. The principle was sound. Crystal structures responded to resonant frequencies. If he could match Zelkor's natural frequency, he might be able to fuse the fragments without invasive surgery. This is insane, someone muttered from across the bay. Marcus did not disagree. It was insane. It was desperate. It was the kind of thing humans did when conventional methods were not available. Throughout human history, medical breakthroughs often came from doctors who were willing to try crazy ideas in desperate situations. Penicillin was discovered by accident. The first vaccine was tested on a child. Anesthesia was found through experimentation. Humans were not the smartest species in the galaxy. They did not have the best technology or the most advanced science. But they were adaptable. They were creative, and they were stubborn about refusing to accept death when there was even the smallest chance of life. If this works, Vekthar said slowly, it will be revolutionary. If it fails, you will have tortured a dying warrior in his final moments. Marcus met the Throssian's black eyes. Then I guess we better make it work. He activated the welder and brought it close to Zelkor's chest. The tool hummed. The crystalline fragments inside Zelkor's body moved slowly toward each other. Marcus held the ultrasonic welder steady, his hand not shaking despite the tension he felt. Silvra provided constant updates, her microscopic vision tracking each tiny piece as it merged with others. 3 fragments have fused, she reported. 4, 5. The larger pieces are stabilizing. Marcus watched his scanner. The internal bleeding was still severe, but it was not getting worse. That was something. If the crystalline structures could be repaired, they would provide support for the damaged organs. Then he could address the bleeding and the respiratory failure properly. How long will this take? Tormek asked. The Pelthian nurse was still maintaining the pressure pattern on Zelkor's sides, helping him breathe. I don't know, Marcus admitted. I've never done this before. No one has done this before, Vekthar said. The Throssian had moved closer to observe. Despite his disapproval of the entire situation, his medical curiosity was engaged. This is unprecedented. Minutes passed. The treatment bay had gone completely silent except for the hum of the welder and Zelkor's labored breathing. Other patients were being treated in different areas of the station now. The medical staff who remained in this bay were all watching Marcus work. 10 fragments fused, Silvra said. 12, 14. The process is accelerating. Marcus allowed himself a small breath of relief. The fragments were responding well. But just as he started to feel hopeful, his scanner showed something new, something wrong. His vital signs are dropping, Marcus said sharply. What's happening? Silvra leaned in closer, her compound eyes examining Zelkor's internal systems. His body is responding to the treatment. I see defensive enzymes flooding the area. His immune system thinks the ultrasonic frequencies are an attack. Can you stop the welder? Tormek asked. No, Marcus said. If I stop now, the fragments will separate again. We have to finish the fusion process. But Zelkor's body was fighting against the treatment. His immune system was trying to protect him from what it perceived as a threat. The defensive enzymes were powerful. Marcus's scanner showed them spreading rapidly through the Kryn's bloodstream. If this continued, the immune response would kill Zelkor faster than his original injuries. Marcus's mind raced. He had seen similar situations before, back on Earth. Human bodies sometimes over-responded to treatment. The immune system would go into overdrive, creating more damage than the original problem. Doctors called it a cytokine storm. The treatment was to suppress the immune response temporarily, allowing the body to heal without fighting itself. I need immunosuppressants, Marcus said. Something to calm down his immune system without shutting it down completely. I do not know Kryn immunology, Tormek said. What their bodies respond to. Marcus looked at his scanner, then at the medical staff around him. Each species had different biology, different immune systems, different medications, but there had to be something they could use, some combination that would work. What do each of your species use for immune suppression? Marcus asked. Tell me quickly. The Faloran intern spoke first. We use a compound derived from our native plants. It slows immune cell production. Xanthians use a synthetic enzyme, Silvra added. It blocks inflammatory signals. Pelthians have a natural hormone that reduces immune response during healing, Tormek said. Marcus looked at Vekthar. The Throsian hesitated, then spoke. My people use an enzyme that suppresses overactive immune reactions. It is very effective, but must be dosed carefully. Can any of those be combined? Marcus asked. That has never been attempted, Vekthar said. Mixing compounds from different species is dangerous. The interactions are unknown. Everything about this is unknown, Marcus said. But I need something. Zelkor is dying right now. His own body is killing him. He continued working with the welder while his mind calculated options. Human medicine had a long history of mixing compounds. Doctors combined medications all the time, using different drugs together to achieve results that single medications could not. It was risky, but sometimes risk was necessary. Give me the Throsian enzyme, Marcus decided, and the Xanthian synthetic. I'll mix them and adjust the dosage based on Zelkor's body mass. Dr. Chen, Vekthar's voice held genuine concern now. If you are wrong, you will kill him instantly. The combination could be toxic. If I do nothing, he dies in 10 minutes, Marcus countered. At least this way there's a chance. He looked at Zelkor's face. The Kryn warrior's golden eyes were still open, but they were unfocused now. His consciousness was fading as his body struggled against itself. Marcus thought about all the patients he had treated in his career. Some lived, some died. The ones who haunted him were not the ones he lost, despite his best efforts. They were the ones he might have saved if he had been willing to try something desperate. He was not going to let Zelkor become one of those ghosts. Bring me the compounds, Marcus said firmly. Vekthar stood still for a moment. Then slowly he moved to a medical cabinet. He retrieved a vial of clear liquid, the Throsian enzyme. Silvra brought the Xanthian synthetic, a blue substance that glowed slightly in the treatment bay's lighting. Marcus set down the welder for a moment. Silvra took over, holding it in position, keeping the ultrasonic frequency constant. Marcus took the two compounds and began mixing them in precise ratios. He used his scanner to analyze the mixture, watching for any signs of dangerous reactions. The compounds combined without exploding or producing toxic fumes. That was a good start. Marcus calculated the dosage based on Zelkor's estimated body weight and current vital signs. He filled a medical injector with the mixture. "This is a guess," Marcus said to everyone watching. "I want you all to know that. I'm making my best guess based on human medical principles and available information. But it's still a guess." "All of medicine is guessing," Vekthar said quietly. "We just call it diagnosis and treatment planning. You are simply more honest about the uncertainty." Marcus appreciated that. He positioned the injector near Zelkor's main blood vessel, a thick vein visible through the scales on his arm. He took a breath, said a silent prayer to whatever gods might be listening, and administered the injection. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then Zelkor's body went rigid. His back arched off the gurney. His golden eyes went wide. Marcus's scanner screamed with alerts as the Kryn's vital signs fluctuated wildly. "His heart is stopping," Tormek shouted. Marcus grabbed a cardiac stimulator from his kit. He placed it against Zelkor's chest and activated it. The device sent electrical pulses through the Kryn's body. Once, twice, 3 times. Zelkor's heart restarted. His body relaxed back onto the gurney. The vital signs on the scanner stabilized, then began to improve. "The immune response is decreasing," Silvra reported, still monitoring the internal view. "The defensive enzymes are being suppressed." Marcus picked up the ultrasonic welder again. His hands were shaking now, but he forced them steady. He continued the treatment, watching as the crystalline fragments fused together. With the immune system no longer fighting the process, the fusion accelerated. 20 fragments merged, Silvra said. 25, 30. The major structural damage is being repaired. Marcus allowed himself to hope. The crystalline structures were stabilizing. That meant the internal organs would have support again. The bleeding should slow down as the fragments stopped cutting through tissue. The respiratory chambers might even begin to function properly once the structural damage was addressed. "Almost there," Marcus said, more to himself than anyone else. 5 more minutes passed. They felt like hours. Marcus's arm ached from holding the welder steady. His back hurt from bending over the gurney. But he did not move, did not stop, did not let himself think about anything except the task in front of him. "All major fragments are fused," Silvra finally announced. "The crystalline structure is whole again." Marcus turned off the welder and set it aside. He checked his scanner. Zelkor's vital signs were still weak, but they were improving. The internal bleeding had slowed significantly. 2 of the 3 respiratory chambers were beginning to function. The third would need more work, but that could wait. The immediate crisis was over. Zelkor would live. Marcus sat down on the floor next to the gurney. His legs would not hold him up anymore. The adrenaline that had kept him going was fading, leaving exhaustion in its wake. He looked up at Zelkor's face. The Kryn's eyes were closed now, his breathing more regular. He was unconscious, but stable. "You did it," Tormek said softly. "You actually did it." Marcus shook his head. "We did it. You helped with the respiratory support. Silvra guided the ultrasonic treatment. The intern provided information about Kryn biology. Even Vekthar contributed the enzyme that saved him." He looked around at the assembled medical staff. They were all staring at him with various expressions. Shock, awe, confusion. The Faloran intern had tears in her large eyes. Tormek was smiling, something Marcus had never seen a Pelthian do before. Vekthar stepped forward. The Throssian looked at Marcus for a long moment, then at Zelkor, then back to Marcus. "What you did today," Vekthar said slowly, "was either brilliant or insane. I have not decided which." "Can it be both?" Marcus asked tiredly. Despite himself, Vekthar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Perhaps. You have violated numerous protocols, ignored direct instructions from a senior physician, performed experimental procedures without proper authorization, used equipment in ways it was never designed for, mixed compounds from different species with no safety data." "Yeah," Marcus agreed. "I did all of that." And you saved a life that everyone else had written off as lost, Vekthar continued. You brought together staff from 5 different species to collaborate on a treatment none of us had ever attempted. You showed us that our protocols, our rules, our careful procedures, sometimes they matter less than the willingness to try. Marcus pushed himself back to his feet. His body protested, but he managed. He looked at Vekthar and saw something in the Throsian's black eyes that he had not seen before. Respect. 3 days passed before Marcus was called to the station administrator's office. He had spent those days working his regular shifts, treating patients, and checking on Zelkor's recovery. The Kryn warrior was doing well. His crystalline structures had healed completely. His respiratory chambers were functioning at 70% capacity and improving daily. He would make a full recovery. Marcus had also noticed the whispers following him through the medical station. Some staff members looked at him with admiration. Others avoided eye contact. Everyone knew what he had done. Everyone had an opinion about it. Now he stood outside Administrator Krell's office, waiting to face the consequences. The door slid open, and a mechanical voice invited him inside. Marcus entered and found himself facing not just Administrator Krell, but also 3 other figures. A Throsian in formal robes sat to the left. 2 Kryn warriors in military uniforms stood to the right. This was going to be interesting. Dr. Marcus Chen, Administrator Krell said. She was a Dralkin, elderly and wise-looking. Please sit. Marcus sat in the chair across from her desk. He kept his expression neutral and his posture relaxed. If he was going to be punished, he would accept it. But he would not apologize for saving a life. I believe you know why you are here, Krell continued. I assume it's about my treatment of the Kryn patient, Marcus said. That is correct. You violated station protocols. You ignored the determination of the senior physician on duty. You performed experimental procedures without authorization. These are serious matters. Marcus nodded. I understand. The Throsian in formal robes leaned forward. I am Envoy Calthen of the Throsian Union. I have been sent to address this situation officially. Your actions have created a diplomatic incident. Dr. Vekthar has been reprimanded by our government for allowing you to proceed with unauthorized treatment. Vekthar tried to stop me, Marcus said. He followed your protocols. What happened after that was my choice. Nevertheless, he is being held accountable, Calthen said. Throsian medical law is clear. Treatment of enemy combatants is forbidden. You violated our law. Marcus met the envoy's eyes. With respect, I'm not Throsian. I'm human. We have different laws, different values. You were working on a station under Galactic Medical Charter rules, Calthen countered. Those rules defer to species-specific protocols in emergency situations. Those rules are wrong, Marcus said simply. The room went quiet. Administrator Krell looked surprised. The Throsian envoy's expression hardened, but Marcus did not back down. He had spent 3 days thinking about this moment. He knew what he wanted to say. I mean no disrespect to Throsian culture, Marcus continued. But your medical protocols put politics above life. That's wrong. Not legally wrong, maybe, but morally wrong, ethically wrong, wrong in every way that matters to a doctor. One of the Kryn warriors spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and resonant. I am Commander Torval of the Kryn Collective. The warrior you treated, Zelkor, is under my command. We have come to understand the situation. Marcus turned to face the Kryn. I'm glad he's recovering well. You do not understand, Torval said. In Kryn culture, a life debt is sacred. Zelkor owes you his life. By extension, I owe you his service. Our entire unit owes you a debt of honor. That's not necessary, Marcus said quickly. I'm a doctor. I don't save lives to collect debts. The second Kryn warrior stepped forward. That is precisely why the debt is meaningful. You saved one of our warriors while expecting nothing in return. You risked your career and your position to help someone who was your enemy according to political definitions. He wasn't my enemy, Marcus said. He was my patient. There's a difference. Commander Torval made a gesture that Marcus did not understand, but it seemed respectful. You have shown us something important, Dr. Chen. You have shown us what humanity values. We have been in conflict with the Throsian Union for many years. We have killed each other over territory and resources, but you ignored all of that to save Zelkor's life. This is noteworthy. Administrator Krell spoke again. The Galactic Medical Council has reviewed your case. They have received reports from multiple sources. Dr. Vekthar's testimony, Nurse Tormek's account, statements from technician Silvra and others who witnessed the event. Marcus waited. This was the moment of judgment. The Council acknowledges that you violated protocols, Krell said. However, they also acknowledge that your actions revealed a significant weakness in current medical policies. The fact that politics can prevent life-saving treatment is, as you said, morally problematic. So what happens now? Marcus asked. The Council has decided to issue you a formal reprimand, Krell said. It will be noted in your file that you acted against station protocols. However, they have also decided to initiate a review of the Galactic Medical Charter. They are considering changes that would prioritize life-saving treatment above political considerations in emergency situations. Marcus blinked. They're changing the rules? They are considering it, Krell corrected. Change in galactic governance is slow. It may take years, but your actions have started a conversation that needed to happen. The Throsian envoy spoke again, his tone less harsh than before. My government is not pleased with this development. However, even within the Throsian Union, there are those who question whether our medical protocols serve their original purpose. These laws were created during a war 300 years ago. Perhaps it is time to reconsider them. Marcus was stunned. He had expected punishment, possibly expulsion from the station. He had not expected this. The idea that his actions might lead to actual change in galactic medical policy seemed impossible. There is more, Commander Torval said. The Kryn Collective has formally requested a meeting with Throsian representatives to discuss medical cooperation during conflicts. We propose that both sides allow neutral medical facilities to treat casualties from either faction without political interference. That is premature, Envoy Cal then said quickly. Perhaps, Torval agreed. But it is worth discussing. Your own doctor, Vekthar, contributed to saving Zelkor's life. He provided the enzyme that suppressed the immune response. Without his help, Dr. Chen would have failed. Does this not demonstrate that cooperation is possible even between rivals? The Throsian envoy had no immediate answer to that. Marcus watched the exchange with growing understanding. His decision to treat Zelkor had ripple effects beyond just one life saved. It had opened doors, started conversations, made people question assumptions they had held for generations. May I speak with Zelkor? Marcus asked. I'd like to check on his recovery. He has been asking to see you, Commander Torval said. We will take you to him. The meeting concluded with Administrator Krell dismissing everyone. As Marcus left the office, he found Vekthar waiting in the corridor outside. The Throsian doctor looked tired. I heard you were reprimanded, Marcus said. Officially, yes, Vekthar replied. Unofficially, I have been contacted by several medical institutions within the Throsian Union. They are interested in the techniques we use to treat Zelkor. They want to study the ultrasonic crystalline fusion method. Apparently, saving lives is more interesting than following old protocols. Marcus smiled. I'm sorry you got in trouble because of me. Do not be sorry, Vecthar said. "You showed me something I had forgotten. I became a doctor to help people, not to enforce political policy. Somewhere along the way, I confused the two. You reminded me of the difference." They walked together toward the recovery ward. Commander Torval and the other Kryn warrior followed at a respectful distance. Marcus felt strange being escorted like this, but he understood it was a cultural thing. The Kryn took their honor debts seriously. Zelkor was awake when they entered his room. The Kryn warrior looked much better than the last time Marcus had seen him. His scales were bright blue-green again. His breathing was steady. He sat up when Marcus entered, his golden eyes bright and alert. "Dr. Chen," Zelkor said. His voice was rough but strong. "I have been waiting to thank you." "You don't need to thank me," Marcus said. "I was just doing my job." "Your job was to let me die," Zelkor said bluntly, "according to protocols and rules and laws. But you chose to ignore all of that. You chose to save me instead. Why?" Marcus thought about how to answer that. He could give a complex explanation about human medical ethics or philosophical principles. But the truth was simpler than that. "Because you were hurt," Marcus said, "and I could help. That's all the reason I needed." Zelkor stared at him for a long moment. Then the Kryn warrior did something Marcus did not expect. He laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that filled the room. "Humans are strange," Zelkor said. "But I think I like your strangeness. You do not think like other species. You do not calculate political consequences or worry about diplomatic incidents. You just see someone who needs help and you help them." "Is that strange?" Marcus asked. "In the galaxy, yes," Zelkor said. "Most species think of themselves first, their own people, their own interests. Humans seem to think of everyone as their people, even enemies, even strangers. It is very strange. And very good." Marcus did not know what to say to that. He had never thought of himself as particularly special. He was just a doctor doing what doctors should do. But maybe that was the point. Maybe what seemed normal to humans was actually unusual in the wider galaxy. "I have made a decision," Zelkor announced. "When I recover fully, I will return to my commanders and request a transfer. I wish to work with medical units instead of combat units. If a human can save the life of an enemy, then I can work to preserve life instead of taking it." 6 months had passed since the day Marcus Chen knelt beside a dying Kryn warrior and chose to break the rules. The medical station above Viridian Prime looked the same from the outside, but inside, everything had changed. Marcus stood in what used to be a standard treatment bay. Now it was a classroom. 20 medical students from a dozen different species sat in rows, watching him with varying degrees of attention. Some took notes, others whispered to each other. A few looked skeptical. That was fine. Marcus had been skeptical of many things before he learned better. "The first rule of emergency medicine," Marcus said, pacing slowly in front of the class, "is to forget everything you think you know." A young Throsian in the front row raised one of his 4 hands. "But we need knowledge to treat patients effectively." "You need knowledge," Marcus agreed. "But you also need to know when that knowledge does not apply. Every species in this galaxy has medical training based on their own biology and the biology of common trading partners. But what happens when you face something completely new? A species you've never treated before? A condition you've never seen?" The students looked at each other. No one had an answer. "You observe," Marcus said. "You ask questions, you try things, you adapt. That's what we're teaching here, adaptive emergency medicine. It's not about memorizing protocols, it's about learning how to think when protocols fail." The young Throsian student spoke again. "My uncle, Dr. Vecthar, speaks highly of these methods, but he also says they require courage. Not all of us are brave like humans." Marcus stopped pacing and looked at the student. He recognized the facial features now. This was Kalvek, Vecthar's nephew. The Throsian doctor had mentioned him several times. "Courage isn't a human trait," Marcus said. "Every species has brave individuals and cowardly ones. What humans have is stubbornness. We don't like accepting death when we think we can prevent it. That's not bravery. That's just being too stubborn to quit." The class laughed. It was a good sound. 6 months ago, Marcus would not have imagined himself teaching alien medical students. But here he was, part of a program that was changing how the galaxy thought about medicine. The door to the classroom opened, and Vecthar entered. The Throsian had become Marcus's co-instructor in the program. He carried a data tablet and looked excited, which was unusual for his normally calm demeanor. "Apologies for the interruption," Vecthar said. "But we have a situation in the main bay. Multiple casualties incoming. Transport ship collision near the station. I thought the students might benefit from observing." Marcus nodded. "Class dismissed. Those who want to observe, follow us. But stay out of the way and listen to the medical staff. This is real work, not a simulation." Half the class followed Marcus and Vecthar to the main treatment bay. The other half scattered, probably grateful for the unexpected break. Marcus did not mind. The ones who followed were the ones who truly wanted to learn. The treatment bay was already preparing for casualties. Nurse Tormek coordinated the staff, his gray skin flushed with the effort of organizing chaos. Technician Silvra checked equipment with her multiple limbs working simultaneously. Other staff members readied medical supplies and cleared space for incoming patients. "What do we know?" Marcus asked Tormek. "Transport collision in Sector 7, the Pelthian reported. 3 ships involved. Mixed species casualties. Some Faloran, some Hellvorn, some Quantari. Unknown number of injured. Rescue teams are bringing them now." "Hostile species to each other?" Marcus asked. It was always important to know the political situation. "The Faloran and Hellvorn have a trade dispute," Tormek said. "Not actively hostile, but not friendly either. The Quantari are neutral." Marcus turned to the students who had followed. "Watch carefully. This is what we've been discussing. Multiple species, possible political tensions, unknown injuries. In the old system, medical staff would check political clearances before starting treatment. In the new system, we treat everyone and sort out politics later." The first transport arrived. 3 patients on floating gurneys, 2 Faloran with severe burns, 1 Hellvorn with what looked like a broken limb. The medical staff moved immediately, assigning each patient to a treatment station without hesitation. The second transport brought more casualties, 4 Quantari suffering from decompression injuries, a young Faloran, barely more than a child, with head trauma. The students watched as the staff worked efficiently, asking no questions about species or political affiliations. The only questions that mattered were medical ones. "You see how they prioritize," Marcus said to the watching students. "Severity of injury first. Everything else is secondary. That's the new protocol." Vecthar added his own observation. 6 months ago, some of these patients would have been delayed or denied treatment based on political protocols. Now we focus on medicine instead of politics. The survival rate has improved by 18% since the new policies were implemented. More transports arrived. The treatment bay filled with activity. Marcus and Vecthar supervised while allowing the trained staff to work. This was not about the 2 of them anymore. It was about a system that worked better than the old one. A commotion near one of the gurneys caught Marcus's attention. A Hellvorn patient was refusing treatment from a Faloran nurse. The patient was conscious and agitated, speaking rapidly in his own language. The nurse looked distressed, uncertain how to proceed. Marcus approached. "What's the problem?" "He says he will not be treated by a Faloran," the nurse explained. "His people and mine are in dispute. He does not trust me." The Hellvorn patient continued speaking, his tone angry. Marcus did not understand the words, but the emotion was clear. Fear. The patient was afraid. Marcus knelt beside the gurney, bringing himself to eye level with the Hellvorn. It was the same motion he had made with Zelkor 6 months ago, the same position of respect and calm. "I know you're scared," Marcus said quietly. "I don't speak your language, but I know fear when I see it. You're hurt, you're in pain, and you're surrounded by strangers. That's terrifying." The Hellvorn stopped speaking and looked at Marcus. His large eyes were filled with anxiety. "This nurse is going to help you," Marcus continued. "Not because she's Faloran or your Hellvorn, not because of trade disputes or political agreements, but because she's a healer and you need healing. That's all that matters here. Can you trust me on that?" He did not know if the Hellvorn understood his words, but tone carried meaning. Calm carried meaning. Marcus placed his hand gently on the alien's shoulder, just as he had done with Zelkor, and waited. The Hellvorn took a shaky breath. Then he nodded slowly and lay back on the gurney. The Faloran nurse gave Marcus a grateful look and began treatment. Marcus stood and found all the students staring at him. Kalvek, the young Throssian, looked amazed. "How did you do that?" the student asked. "I showed him he was safe," Marcus said simply. "Sometimes that's the most important part of treatment. Before you can heal the body, you have to address the fear. Every species understands fear, and every species responds to kindness." The emergency continued for another 2 hours. By the end, all casualties had been treated and stabilized. No one had been turned away. No one had been delayed for political clearance. The system worked exactly as it was supposed to. As the last patients were moved to recovery wards, Marcus noticed a familiar figure entering the treatment bay. Zelkor, the Kryn warrior he had saved 6 months ago, walked with purpose toward them. He looked completely healthy now, his blue-green scales bright and his movement strong. "Dr. Chen," Zelkor said, "I heard there was an emergency. I came to help." Marcus smiled. "You're not on duty today." "I know, but I was nearby and thought you might need extra hands." Zelkor looked around the treatment bay. "Though it seems you handled everything well." Vekthar approached and greeted Zelkor with obvious warmth. The Throssian and the Kryn had formed an unlikely friendship over the past months. They often discussed medical techniques and shared knowledge about their respective species' biology. "How is your new assignment?" Vekthar asked. "Good," Zelkor replied. "The Kryn Medical Corps is adapting well to the new cooperative protocols. We have been working with Throssian medical units on joint training exercises. It is strange to work alongside former enemies, but it is good strange." Marcus felt pride hearing that. Zelkor had kept his promise. After recovering, he had transferred from combat duty to medical service. Now he was helping spread the new approach throughout Kryn military medicine. "There is something I wanted to tell you both," Zelkor continued. "The Kryn Collective and the Throssian Union have signed a formal agreement. Medical facilities on both sides will treat casualties from either faction without political restriction. It is a small agreement, limited to medical services only, but it is a start." Vekthar's black eyes showed surprise. "That is significant. My government has been resistant to any cooperation with the Kryn." "And mine with the Throssians," Zelkor agreed. "But both sides have seen the benefits of the new medical protocols. It is difficult to argue against saving lives. Even politicians understand that." Marcus leaned against a treatment station, feeling the weight of the day's work. His body was tired, but his mind was clear. 6 months ago, he had made a choice to help someone who needed help. He had expected consequences. He had received them. But he had also started something bigger than himself. The medical students were leaving now, talking excitedly among themselves. They had seen real emergency medicine in action. They had watched how the new protocols worked in practice, not just theory. Some of them would go on to become excellent doctors. Some might even teach others. The knowledge would spread. I received a message from Earth, Marcus said to his companions. The medical academy where I trained wants to add adaptive emergency medicine to their curriculum. They're calling it the Chen method, which is embarrassing. But they're interested in teaching it to new human doctors before they go off-world. That is appropriate, Vecthar said. The method originated with human medical philosophy. It makes sense for humans to teach it. It's not really a human method, though, Marcus said. It's just common sense applied to medicine. Help people who need help. Don't let politics get in the way. Use whatever tools and knowledge you have available. That should be universal, not specifically human. Perhaps, Zelkor said. But humans were the first to demonstrate it on a galactic scale. That means something. They stood together in the quiet treatment bay. 3 very different beings united by a common purpose. A human, a Throsian, and a Kryn. 6 months ago, 2 of them would have been prevented from working together by political protocols. Now they were colleagues, friends, partners in changing how the galaxy approached medicine. Marcus thought about all the patients he had treated over the past 6 months. Dozens of species, hundreds of individuals. Each one received the care they needed regardless of politics or bureaucracy. Each one proved that the new system worked better than the old one. There would always be resistance to change. Some governments still clung to old protocols. Some medical institutions preferred traditional methods. But change was happening, slowly, steadily, inevitably. Because once people saw that there was a better way, it was hard to go back to accepting the worse way. I should return to my quarters, Marcus said. Long day. Early shift tomorrow. Before you go, Vecthar said, I wanted to thank you. For what? For teaching me to question protocols I had followed without thinking. For showing me that rules serve us, not the other way around. For reminding me why I became a doctor in the first place. Marcus put his hand on the Throsian's shoulder. It was a gesture that had become familiar between them. You did that yourself. I just gave you permission to act on what you already knew was right. He left the treatment bay and walked through the station's corridors toward his quarters. The lights had dimmed for the station's night cycle. Most of the population was asleep or off duty. Marcus enjoyed these quiet moments after busy shifts. In his quarters, he sat at his small desk and opened a communication link to Earth. His family would want to hear about today. His former teachers would want updates on the new medical program. And somewhere, other human doctors were waiting to learn about the work being done out here among the stars. Marcus began recording a message. He talked about the emergency, the students, the progress being made. He talked about Zelkor and Vecthar and all the others who were helping change galactic medicine. He talked about how proud he was to be part of something bigger than himself. But mostly, he talked about the simple truth that had guided him from the beginning. When someone needs help and you can provide it, you help them. Everything else is just noise. Politics, protocols, rules, regulations. They all matter less than the choice to kneel beside someone in pain and say the words that every patient needs to hear. Relax, friend. I've got you. That was the human way. That was the way it should be. And slowly, species by species, doctor by doctor, patient by patient, it was becoming the galactic way too. Marcus finished his message and sent it toward Earth. Then he lay down on his bed and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new patients, new opportunities to teach and learn and help. He looked forward to all of it. The work was never done, but that was okay. Marcus Chen had never expected it to be easy. He had only expected it to be worthwhile. And it was. Every single day, it was worthwhile. Outside his window, the stars shone bright against the darkness of space. Somewhere among those stars, other humans were doing similar work. Other doctors were breaking down barriers and challenging old ways of thinking. Other healers were choosing compassion over politics. It was what humans did best. They saw problems and worked to fix them. They saw suffering and worked to end it. They saw division and worked to bridge it, not because they were perfect. Not because they had all the answers, but because they were too stubborn to accept that things could not be better. That stubbornness, that refusal to accept unnecessary suffering, had changed one medical station above one planet. In time, it might change the entire galaxy. Marcus did not know if he would live to see that day, but he knew that he had played his part in starting it. That was enough. That had to be enough, and somehow it was. "That's a big decision," Marcus said. "It is the right decision," Zelkor replied. "You have taught me something valuable, Dr. Chen. You have taught me that mercy is not weakness, compassion is not surrender, and sometimes the bravest thing a warrior can do is choose to heal instead of harm." Marcus left the recovery ward feeling lighter than he had in days. He had saved a life. He had started conversations about changing unjust policies, and he had apparently inspired a warrior to become a healer. That was more than he had expected when he knelt beside a dying Kryn 3 days ago. As he walked back to his quarters, Marcus thought about what came next. The formal reprimand on his file did not bother him. The potential changes to galactic medical policy would take years, maybe decades. But he had done what he set out to do. He had helped someone who needed help. Everything else was just details. "I'm going to get in trouble for this, aren't I?" Marcus asked. "Almost certainly," Vecthar said. "We both are. Everyone who helped is." "Worth it," Marcus said simply. He looked down at Zelkor one more time. The Kryn warrior was breathing steadily now. His scales were beginning to regain their blue-green color. He would need more treatment, monitoring, recovery time, but he would live to see tomorrow. That was all that mattered. Marcus gathered his equipment and began cleaning up. There was still work to do. There were always more patients, more emergencies, more lives hanging in the balance. That was the nature of medicine. You did what you could with what you had, and you hoped it was enough. Today, it had been enough. Med at a frequency too high for human ears to hear. Marcus watched his scanner carefully, monitoring the crystalline structures inside the Kryn's body. Silevra leaned in close, using her microscopic vision to guide his movements. "Lower," she said. "The frequency is too low. Increase by 30 units." Marcus adjusted the setting. The fragments began to vibrate in response to the ultrasonic waves. "That's it," Silvra confirmed. "They are responding. The pieces are moving toward each other." Marcus held his breath. This was the critical moment. The fragments were either going to fuse back together, or they were going to shatter into even smaller pieces that would kill Zelkor within minutes. There was no way to know which would happen until it happened. On the gurney, Zelkor's golden eyes remained fixed on Marcus's face. The human gave him what he hoped was a reassuring look. Then he focused entirely on the scanner, watching the crystalline structures respond to the ultrasonic frequencies. The fragments began to merge. Advanced as the alien technology, but Marcus knew how to use it. He began running scans of the Kryn's body, looking for any information that might help him understand this alien physiology. Behind him, he heard Vecthar make a sound of frustration. But the Throsian did not try to stop him physically. None of them did. They just watched, uncertain how to respond to a human who refused to follow the rules that everyone else accepted. The Kryn warrior's hand moved weakly, reaching up toward Marcus. The human caught it gently in his free hand. The alien's grip was weak, but Marcus held on. "Stay with me," Marcus said quietly. "We're going to figure this out." He had no idea if the Kryn could understand his words, but tone carried meaning across species. The warrior's golden eyes stayed focused on Marcus's face, and that was enough. As long as those eyes stayed open, there was still time. As long as there was time, there was hope. Marcus began to work.